Welcome back to episode 138 of the Disorganized Wizards Club podcast. My name is Alex. I'm here as always with Adam.
Hi.
And Cam.
Wow, you introduced us in the same order, even though we're sitting in different spots.
Unbelievable.
I felt like I was finally going to get the premier position.
Get wrecked.
No.
This couch is pretty sweet, though.
Yeah, dude, that spot is nice.
Yeah, changing it up this week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can just lounge. Yeah, people can't really see the studio, obviously, but
But even though we're changing it up in the studio, we're still the same players that... What's the intro?
Ottawa-based players
We're
that
still Ottawa-based players that
play
do
just about anything and everything we can qualify for.
Yeah.
Talk about decks, tournament stories, just about anything to help you and ourselves get better at Magic.
Thanks, guys. Yeah.
I think we could all do it off memory, but it's the change in physical location in the studio that's messing things up. It's gonna be a weird episode. It's gonna have a weird vibe to it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Something's gonna be strange, I guarantee it.
And we got a lot to talk about this week. Cam, you played some pre-releases this past weekend. How'd that go?
Well, so it's fun playing Paper Magic. I'll say that first. The first one did not go well. Went 0-2 to start, and then technically won the third round against a kid, but conceded because I was getting a ride home from someone else. So let's call it 0-3.
Oh yeah.
And it's because I didn't have any blue cards in my deck.
Oh.
And being the first games of M20 that I had played, I didn't realize how much better all the blue cards were than my green and red rares. They couldn't beat blue commons, man. And then
I didn't even know about the common, and then you came out and told me about it. I was like, that's not a common.
I had to like pull up the spoiler and show him because I was complaining about losing to Cloud Conceer. I was like, look at this thing.
And I told him, I was like, that's not a common. Because he's telling me, oh yeah, there's this 3-mana 2/1 flyer that when it comes into play, draw a card. I'm like, that thing like an uncommon? He's like, no, it's common. I'm like, dang, no, it's not.
Yeah.
Oh, but it is.
That card nuts.
So that card's really obnoxious.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my second pre-release, I opened 2 of those. And so I played them. I mean, it was admittedly alongside my Cavalier of Gales and some other good blue cards, a Temsis and such, but that one went better.
Yeah.
3-0'd and then declined the draw in the last round and lost. So 3-1.
Oh, rip.
And then played some Two-Headed Giant, which, was a shit show as expected.
Yeah, Two-Headed Giant's wild.
Oh, yeah.
I hate that format, man. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I can see how it can be fun. The problem I have is that turns just take way too long.
Yeah,
I just start to fall asleep.
I don't know. I kind of like building like 2 decks out of one big
That
puzzle,
is
and
super
it's
fun, though. That is, you know what I mean? Like team sealed building, stuff like that.
Mhm.
That's awesome. Like
Yeah.
that's super fun. I just don't like when I have to wait for 40 minutes while people like whisper on about their plans and then just make an attack. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah. Come
Yeah,
on.
but-
Like, you're going to serve. We both know what's happening here.
Well, no, you both don't know. They need to figure it out. But
Yeah.
I knew I was getting in for a clown fiesta, so I had fun.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And how did you like M20 Limited so far?
I don't feel like I've played enough of it to decide yet, but so far, I think it's following War of the Spark. It's incredibly nice. So I think just by virtue of that alone, it's going to be a fun set. But I've also started to notice that and this was something I talked about a few episodes ago, that for a while, card design was pretty limited in how you could use things. You had to target your opponent's creatures, or pump spells could only target your creatures, etc.
Mhm.
But I've noticed that there are some cards in M20 that allow for flexible play decisions and multiple uses. The one that comes to mind right now is Yarok's Wave Crasher. It's a blue 4-mana 4/4. When it ETBs, you have to pick up another creature you control.
Yeah.
So this can be used to, you can set up a game plan where you don't have to use that effect. You can play it onto an empty board, or you can set up a game plan where you use it to double up on ETBs, or you can use it to save creatures from enchantment removal, or et cetera, et cetera. So it seems like there are some cards with multiple uses. Sideboarding also seems like it'll be fun in this limited format because you can draft hate cards.
Yeah, that's really sweet. Those are always good limited formats, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Those have always been an important part of playing a good limited format, is that you can plan for all these things to play a match. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Not just a game.
So it's looking like it's going to be good. And I've been enjoying figuring it out the first, 2 drafts of it I've played. So I've only played blue so far because I just can't get over Cloud Conceer.
You know, it's funny. Usually by this point, now that it's been out on Moto and Arena, I usually by now would have played 20 to 30 sealeds, you know what I mean? And just
Yeah.
gone nuts. Because I did for even War of the Spark, even though I hated that format. I played maybe 15 or 20 sealeds and then I think I typed in the chat that we had just saying this format sucks, I'm done.
Yeah.
But I did play a ton trying to see and tons of other strategies. And this one I just haven't got around to playing yet, but that's sort of my plan over the next week or two, so we can do a limited episode for this because we haven't got a chance yet, and we always do that. So I'll be able to grind out a lot for it. But I wanted to say, it's funny you mentioned this 4/4 for 4 that enters the battlefield and you return a creature to your hand.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually the example Morrow gives for what they call renticular design. Do you know about this?
I've heard that word and I never remember what it means.
It basically just refers to that sort of the more time you spend with the game, the more sort of it changes your sort of outlook on cards and sort of understanding of how they interact with one another within the space of the game. So that this is actually, and I bring this up because of our topic, which we'll get to later. So this will be a good way to harken back to this discussion. But one of the things he talks about, actually, the exact example he uses is imagine you have a 3-mana 3/3 vanilla.
Yeah.
Right. And then you have a 3-mana 3/3. When it enters the battlefield, return target creature you control to its owner's hand. Another target creature. Okay. So you ask a new player, which is the better card?
Mm-hmm.
They'll say the vanilla.
They say the vanilla 3/3 every time. Or who knows? They might even vary their answer based on art or name. You know what I mean? Who knows? But good players see that text and don't see it as a downside. Good players learn to see that as potential upsides of its exploitation with other cards, right? Mm-hmm. And this is sort of how they intentionally, at least Morrow claims, I'm not sure that this actually happens. I think it probably happens in every single game, but I think this is just a corner case explanation. However, it's interesting that, what he calls renticular design, that, you have these cards that instead of operating sort of in a vacuum at a base power level, they instead only are good or bad based on their interaction with other cards. And you see this in particular ways. So that's a good example. And I think limited this is why I've always said limited is my favorite format. I think limited is the space where you get to do this the most because you're not confined by power. Whereas in standard, right, the sort of baseline for power is so high. To be standard playable, a card has to be nuts. You know what I mean? Just they are. They're insane. Most standard playable cards are borderline modern playable. That's how good they are.
Especially now in such a big standard as well.
For sure. Yeah. Whereas at the beginning, we'll have some filler, right? But limited formats, they aren't sort of confined to design space that is based on just pure power, raw top deck ability, right? They're based on this sort of renticular structure of designing, I think, at least at a more interesting play level. Mm-hmm. And so this format, I feel, has those sort of interactions in it that makes it a really strong limited format. Whereas I don't think that was the case in War of the Spark. It was just you just play Planeswalkers, play to the board, and people just snowball and fall behind, and there's no sort of synergy to get them out of this. They're just dead. Mm-hmm. Whereas this format feels like there are particular builds you can make and different pathways and decisions that you can take that reward you for interactions between cards. So that's good to see.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to figuring it out. The Wave Crasher is an example, but even just going back to my boy Cloud Conceer, it flies and it's an elemental. So it plays well with blue-white cards. It also goes into any teamer or elemental deck.
Elemental too?
There's yeah.
Wow.
It's an elemental wizard.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Oh, man. And it's a wizard?
Yeah.
Dude.
It just does everything. This is my new favorite card.
Standard playable.
I think my previous favorite card was Ojutai, but this one's better.
Wow.
I got a deck for you.
Oh, yeah?
So turn 2, we played the Homunculus, right? Fibblethip.
Okay.
Okay, turn 3, we played Cloudcan.
Okay.
Turn 4, we play Elite Guard Mage.
Ooh, I'm in.
And then turn 5, we time wipe and pick something up. Because all our creatures suck, but they all drew cards.
Yeah.
Because we're for sure behind on board at this point.
Yeah.
But we could have survived and left one creature back to time wipe them and then pick up our guy and continue to draw cards. And that's just all the deck does.
I'm listening.
It's just play idiots and draw cards and then eventually cast I don't know, something.
Yeah, I'm in.
You have Teferi on 3 to also play and draw a card. You just literally, your entire deck is just blue-white cantrips attached to something else that creates value. So they're not actually cantrips. They're a creature or something, a planeswalker that also comes with a cantrip. I'm telling you, dude, that's a deck.
Yeah?
Because I've been playing it.
It sounds like everything I'd want to do in Magic.
Dude, it's obnoxious. You just
Might
always
as
have
well
7 cards.
Just throw Flood of Tears Omniscience in there with it. Pick up all the guys that drew cards.
Ooh.
And then just play them all again. Draw more cards.
Speaking of drawing cards, that might be my second favorite card in the set so far, is Winged Words. That's a 2-mana divination, friends.
Which one's that?
It's the 2-mana draw 2 cards.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's divination, but if you have a flyer, it costs 2.
Yeah, if you echoes too. Yeah.
That's nuts.
That is actually insane.
Yes. Yeah.
I told you how I got stomped by blue-white flyers, right?
Yes.
Hanged
Yeah.
executioner, imperial eagle, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Crumpled me. Stupid eagles. Chickens are better.
They should have just flown to Mordor.
So was it nice to play some Paper Magic again?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got out there. I also played some Paper Magic last week.
Yeah, didn't you go to play Modern?
Went and played Modern at the Wizards Tower here in Ottawa. Great sponsor of this podcast, wizardtower.com, your source for Magic singles here in Canada. Free shipping on orders over $15. Check them out. Core Set 2020 release weekend. This weekend, they'll be holding drafts. We've got sealed. It's all there if you want to go out play some Paper Magic. Wizardtower.com.
All the limited formats. Get your hands on some new, powerful, standard uncommons.
Hell yeah.
You can just draft and build your standard decks now. Nuts. That's the dream. This is Magic as Richard Garfield intended.
So
But-
did you Tron people?
No,
Wow.
because Hogak wasn't banned yet. So
Oh.
that deck is unplayable. But I played Blue Red Phoenix and I went 4-0. And
Nice.
I'm now officially a Blue Red Phoenix expert. So
So you get all listeners can
Yeah.
direct their questions
Yeah.
about Blue Red Phoenix to you.
yeah, totally.
Like, how many of this should you play manually? I don't know.
I killed a lot of people with Aria Flame. That card is messed up.
Is it really good?
It is messed up, man.
Yeah, it seems insane.
Yeah. Like, I played against Black White Smallpox in round 2, and he Celestial Purged the first one. And I was like, oh, that kind of sucks.
That is.
And I just like played the second one. It just didn't matter. He died so fast.
Yeah, my favorite, one of my favorite sideboard cards of all time, by the way.
Yeah.
I think that card nuts.
Yeah.
And always has been nuts.
It was sweet though, because like I played against Devoted Druid Vizier combo in round 3 and 4, and game 1 of both matches, I got to cheese them out by bolting their Devoted Druid, then surgical extractioning it. So their deck just did nothing. it was great.
Get cheesed on.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
But-
pretty good.
Yeah, Blue Red Phoenix, it's fun. It's probably what I'm going to be playing in Modern now going forward. But this is a good tie-in because we had a ban and restricted announcement.
That's a
this past
modern
week as well.
rotation.
Yeah,
Yeah, modern. Yeah, the modern rotation.
modern rotation. Bridge from Below getting the axe.
I love that. Just because
Yeah,
they everything about the statement, everything about Bridge being first in Modern, and then taken away as if it's the problem. Like, everything about it's funny to me. I don't know.
It makes sense though, thematically, right? Like the format was dead. It was in the graveyard.
mm-hmm.
And then it died some more. So Bridge got exiled.
I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
I think it was a good ban.
I agree, but I think there
Yeah.
probably needs to be others. But
Only time will tell. But I mean, Bridge was the card. Like, if we're looking at it this way, what are the cards that enabled the turn 2 kills? Essentially, it was Bridge from Below, Hogak, and Altar.
yeah, they're not
And,
banning Hogak.
Yeah, you're not going to ban Hogak. You just printed it, and Altar is
Same
like
thing.
only good in that for that specific reason.
And same thing.
Yeah, so I think Bridge is fine.
Yeah. yeah.
You're never doing anything fair with Bridge from Below in your deck.
No, God
anyway.
no. It's not
So-
possible.
And the deck obviously is a bit worse, but it's still playable. You know, graveyard strategies with Hogak are still good in the format. I'm sure Dredge will pick up maybe a couple of copies. I'm sure there's versions of Bridgevine that are still really powerful as well. So I think it was a good hit.
yeah.
Obviously, a lot of people complaining that Faithless Looting didn't get the axe, but I don't think we're going to see a Faithless Looting ban.
I would be surprised. I feel like they probably think it's the right power level for Modern. Like,
I
it's
think
the
it's
fair
totally
cantrip.
fine.
Yeah, I agree.
Like,
People are saying, oh, that, nothing fair has ever come from casting Faithless Looting. I see a lot of comments like this. This is not true.
Yeah, Marty Pyromancer was around doing
Yeah.
fair things for a long time with
Yeah,
that card.
tons of fair decks play looting. Like,
Mhm.
that's just not true. Like, it's a very commonly played card, but okay. The problem isn't looting.
no. But still on Modern, we had the Red Bull Untapped event this past weekend
Yeah.
for some paper qualifiers. Did you catch any of the coverage?
I did not catch any of the coverage. I wanted to watch it, but I was kind of mostly laughing about this term because I remember, I think it was Shota, right? Shota Yasuka, like, applied to be in it, and they said, well, we'll put you on a wait list. We're not really sure who you are, basically. That's like what they said to him. And he was like, okay. I think it was someone like that. It was some like huge player. It was like a Hall of Famer. It was like, hey, like,
Yeah.
I'm putting in my application to play, and they're like, well, you don't really have like the, the Twitch following to like, that we're going to let you play. But it was something like that. It was so ridiculous.
Yeah, well, because I think there was a specific amount of MPL players that were allowed for each event. And then if you had over 10K followers on Twitch, there was also slots for those players.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And then everything else was just a random lottery, I think. So, yeah, some players going to fall through the cracks, I guess. But
I didn't even know this was happening.
yeah. The first event this past weekend was won by Blue Red Phoenix in the hand of the reigning world champion, Javier Dominguez.
Nice.
Yeah, just cutting through the Hogak metagame. 2 copies of the deck made the top 8, but both of them lost immediately. And then the second event was won by Jund.
This is the second or third time this has happened recently.
Jund keeps winning. Have you not noticed this?
Yeah.
You literally can't stop it,
I don't
dude.
understand it.
This has always been the case. Literally for years now. Years. People have been like, man, Jund sucks. And then it just wins a tournament. People are like, huh, what happened? And the guy's like, I don't know, I just Junded him out, man. What do you want? I just thought seized them on one, took their enabler, played a goif, and then they just died. You know what I mean? Like, that's what happens, man.
Look at this deck. New cards, we have Seasoned Pyromancer, Hex Drinker, Plague Engineer, Ren and 6.
Yeah.
All sweet cards.
All hype cards.
But I just don't get it.
Dude, Hex Drinker, I think might actually be a good card.
You think so?
I think it might be.
Why though?
I can't tell, but I watched a guy play it and it was pretty good. Like on a stream, and I was
It
like,
just seems so bad.
it seems awful, but then in modern, I realized like once it hits the top, and in mid range, like green black, like rock decks and stuff, and John, you always just have extra mana sitting around. Like you can flood pretty easily. And then if that thing gets to the last stage, like you can't kill it.
Yeah, but like how much mana do you have to spend to make it that big?
Like 40 million.
Yeah, but people already
like
spending,
6, right? Like,
Yeah,
or how much is it again? Yeah, it's 6, right?
maybe.
5 or 6. Click on it again.
I can't really.
Oh,
zoom
right
in that
on
much.
this one. Sorry, it's what level up is cost 1. I know that much, and I just can't remember whether it's 5 or 6 that it becomes
leveling up
6.
costing 1 is extremely flexible.
That's
and
what I mean. Like when I was watching this guy play it, he just kept being able to, sneak a mana in here and there.
Mm-hmm.
You have to put 8 mana into it.
Yeah. No, yeah,
That's so much.
but it has pro everything, dude. You just make a progenitus. That's nuts.
Yeah.
And
Like
protection from this is what this is all another important part is protection from instants in modern is
Pretty good.
an unkillable 4/4.
Yeah, it might as well just be
Right. And
Path
so
Shroud or something. Like,
yeah, I mean at level for 2 mana you have you know what I mean? For investing 3 mana, you have a 4/4 that can't get pathed, can't get fatal pushed. You know what I mean? It just doesn't die. Like, I think this card actually is not bad. And then you just have 1 mana here and there floating around. You eventually make Progenitus. Like, isn't this like the mid-range dream? You just sort of like accrue value and use your mana every turn.
Mhm.
Because like once you get to 4 or 5 mana in Jund, what are you doing when you're playing a spell a turn? Nothing. You like bolt something and then you have 4 mana sitting there.
yeah.
Yeah, this is the reason they play creature lands, right? Is so that extra mana can go into
Can
something.
go somewhere.
And this is just another sort of sink for that.
Yeah. Like I think it's actually pretty good.
And paying a bunch to make a creature big, like they were already doing that with Skoos. Like obviously Scavenging Ooze has other very good uses in the format, but there are games where you're fine just sinking mana to make a big green thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree. I've been saying this for years. I think Scavenging Ooze is maybe the best creature in Modern, just because its utility is just insane.
Yeah, it's really good.
Like it's good against Snapcaster, good against Dredge, good in Mirror Match. Like it's just nuts. Like it does everything.
Mhm.
But you don't want multiple copies, so it's so awkward, right? Because you only want 1 Skoos,
That's true.
you know?
It's
Because
hard to grow 2 of them.
yeah, exactly. Red and 6 being in this deck is sweet, just because you can use it to consistently sort of get mana back, field
Yeah.
or ghost quarter someone, or you can get back your creature lands. Like, you know what I mean?
I think the clock for Jund is ticking, though. Now that Hogak is crippled and we're getting the London Mull, there's going to be a lot more Tron floating around.
Oh yeah,
And,
yeah. Rip this guy.
yeah.
Yeah, that's I guess why, right? Yeah, that's a good point because we were saying like, why does this keep happening? Jund just keeps winning. It's like when Tron is dead, Jund comes out to play. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah.
When Tron is not a good deck to play, Jund can just come out and beat everything else.
Yeah, I guess Jund was pretty well positioned to take advantage of the meta game that formed to fight Hogak. And then I don't know how you ever beat Hogak, aside from maybe getting a little lucky and with Thoughtseize take away their
That is exactly what it is.
nature's claim and protect your Leyline of the Void, maybe.
Yeah. That's, I mean, that is literally how Jund plays. Well, you just Inquisition Thoughtseize them, take the piece that matters, and then hope they don't top deck it and you win.
You draw your one Nihil Spellbomb main. Good to go.
Good. Let's go.
Buys you enough time to start scoozing them.
Mm-hmm. But that was Modern this past week. Whole new format now, boys.
Yeah, AKA Tron is back.
Tron is back, baby.
Modern has been changing faster, it feels like, in the last 6 months than it has in the previous 6 years.
Well, we've had more Modern rotation in the past 6 months than...
Yeah, like there was a new set just for Modern, then there was a banning, like then a different mulligan rule, like...
I love that it's called Modern Rotation so much. It does, the format does change a lot.
Mm-hmm. It's insane how warping one card can be.
Yeah, it changed the entire format. It's wild. Yeah, Modern is actually a glass cannon format in itself. The format is a glass cannon. One card can come in and just shatter the whole house.
Yeah. But yeah, speaking of one card making a big impact and how to tell if the card is having an impact or if it's not having an impact and just generally assessing things that you're trying, we're going to talk about practicing with a purpose in context of evaluating new cards since M20 just came out and there's a new Modern format that people might want to brew in. So that's our topic for today.
That sounded so professional. Such a just gentlemanly intro, you know?
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of people on YouTube and they make segues sometimes.
How to be a YouTuber.
Yeah.
And
So
influence
if you enjoy the following discussion, be sure to like and subscribe.
Check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/DWC Podcast.
Yeah, if you want to support the show.
links below.
Links in the description.
Get the merch. But yeah, we wanted to, specifically with all these new cards coming out, I thought it would be cool to talk about maybe tips for practicing and how to evaluate cards better, in a sense, beyond just, jamming games with new cards in your deck and not really taking much from the games you've played.
I mean, a lot of this is just a request to avoid sort of results-oriented thinking regarding wins or losses, and instead sort of considering the actual outcome of the match, which we've talked about before. But I think a lot of it is like playing cards in context and seeing how they are within a specific setting, I think is what we were kind of talking about. Because I watched some streamers, play limited and they're, this card's trash, and they don't pick it. And I'm like, well, it's actually really good in this situation, with this deck and in this limited structure and this sort of the 1+1 strategy, right? Like take this card, which is bad on its own, and this other card, which is bad on its own, that no one will pick in the draft, and then I have 6 copies of each, and then I can just go nuts on people. Like that happens in limited all the time. We used to be big on this in the Kaladesh days when we would take all the garbage.
I lost to that this morning. Not really 1+1, but a similar sort of strategy. So a card that I discredited when I was looking through M20 is Sage's Row Denizen. 3 mana, 2/3 blue creature. When another blue creature ETBs under your control, target player mills 2. Seemed pretty mopey. I had been playing some other cards and 2 power wasn't really getting through on the ground. But then I played against someone who they must have had at least 5 in their deck because they had 2 to 3 every game. And I was just getting milled 4 to 12 per turn and I died.
Yeah, no, mill in limited is actually a strong strategy, right? Like I think in limited it has always been a reasonable strategy.
Yeah, what was that most recent format that had some pretty good mill cards? Was it Shadows over Innistrad?
Yep. Yeah.
There was a legit mill deck in that format that was pretty good.
Yeah. You remember when the Jace 5, what was it called?
Oh, Jace.
I can't remember what it's called, man.
Was it Mindbender?
I want to say it's something like that too.
Yeah, the core set Jace.
The core set Jace?
Yeah.
They just milled 13?
Yeah.
It's 0 or something. It was like mill 13. So in limited, it was just unbeatable.
That's insane.
Actually
That's
unbeatable.
worse than Ashiok was.
Yeah, it was nuts.
Yeah. So, Ashiok in War. Like I actually think just going 2-drop Ashiok was game in War of the Spark.
Unbeatable,
Yeah, especially if they had Aid the Fallen, where they could pick up a creature and a planeswalker, so they can mill you 2 or 3 times with Ashiok. If it dies, okay, just get it back, replay it, mill you, and the game's over.
Mm-hmm.
Mill is a real, and it's a 3 mana 2/3. That's already
it was Yeah, fine.
That's a D plus card, but those make your deck. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There are times just for the curve, you just don't have any other 3-drops and you play, 3 mana 2/3s. I have a question for you, actually. You take a 3 mana 3/2 or a 3 mana 2/3 in limited?
3/2.
Yeah, I'm on board with 3/2s.
Really?
Yeah.
So like Shock and Disfigure are in this format, so that might make me change my mind. But other formats where like Strike is good removal.
We're just talking vanillas.
Yeah.
I don't know. It obviously depends on like what type of removal other colors have available, but I'd rather have something that can clock my opponent if they're stumbling and trade up.
I'm on board with that.
I'm torn. I'm actually torn on this question because if they just play a bear, then you just hosed. And I just have, you know what I mean? I hate to see a 3-drop die to a bear.
Yeah, but you don't have to attack into it.
What if they just play a 3/3 and you have a 2/3? Then you're just host.
Then you're also host.
Yeah. There's no winning.
But like
There's no winning here.
No.
in that bear
Both
example,
cards suck.
I think I'd still rather have the 3/2 in that bear example.
I think you're right.
And here's another, like, my thinking is that
I'm just not sure. In this format, I think I want the 2/3 actually, but
maybe in this format, but like my thinking is this: say they have a 2/2 and I have a 2/3, they obviously won't attack me. If I attack them, they won't block, and then they get to attack back, and we're trading hits for 2, so we're equal. So at my choice, I can either stall the game or we can be the same. If I have a 3/2 and they attack me, I'm obviously not blocking because I get to attack back for 3 and I win that race. And then I get to choose under which scenarios I want to start attacking. So I have more control, it feels like.
okay. Yeah. I like that answer. Sold. We're buying some 3/2s. Yeah, no, but I think these are the kind of things you need to think about in limited formats and then start thinking about, like you said, I think it's really insightful to say, well, yeah, Shock and Disfigure in this format. That's interesting, right? Or I think I don't know if it's more important or not, because Shock and Disfigure, yeah, I think sway it a lot, but also, are there playable bears? Like, because a lot of formats, Grizzly Bears aren't playable, like 2 mana 2/2s, but are there a bunch in this format that have upside? So, for example, Cloudkin, right?
Yeah, it's 2/1.
It's a 2/1. So taking 3/2s is like so awkward. You play a 3 mana 3/2 and they play a Cloudkin, it feels so bad.
Mm-hmm.
They just block your 3/2 with a 2/1, and that they also drew a card off. So
And there's other examples of good. There's like a black 2/2 that has lifelink on your turn, which is okay. Chandra's Ember Cat is the 2/2 mana dork for elementals. That card's very good.
Yeah, right. So it just depends if there's so that's why I said in this format, I think I might take the 3 mana 2/3 if it's vanilla. Like if we're just having a what do you take in this format vanilla discussion. But this is like, we'd have to actually sit down.
I'd have to play a bunch of games.
That's what I mean. Yeah, it'd take us a while to figure out. And this is, I think, my point is that, man, limited formats are so complicated for how they're potentially going to interact that to play the sort of optimal strategy of, all right, well, generally their decks will look like this and creatures on the curve are going to be sized in this way. People play these removal spells. You know what I mean? Trying to figure that out takes a while.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it's like, and how cards interact that way. It's like really hard to judge. Like there's no clean answer, I guess, is the point, right? It's like so format dependent.
Another example. Well, I think my 03 pre-release is a really good example of this. There were a bunch of cards that I played that would have been good in other formats.
Sorry, this is Alex's face when
if
people can't see him, just a smile on his face. Oh, my 03 pre-release is a good example of this. Now it's just cracks.
I haven't finished writing up my tournament report for it yet, but but like I had some good green and red rares, and then the rest of my green and red cards I felt were defensible in formats that I was used to. For instance, I played the Scorpion, green 1/1 Death Touch. We did a whole episode about how critical Death Touch was in Ravnica Allegiance. So there's formats where those cards are very, very good. But then my opponents had, 1/2 flyers, 2/1 flyers, and it can't race that. And so I lost a lot of games because I was down a card against creatures that this Death Touch creature couldn't interact with. And I just didn't know.
I just didn't know.
Yeah. What was I supposed to do?
No, it's true, actually, because, I had a friend visiting. Also, that's probably why I felt so out of place when I got back. I was saying I didn't have a lot of time for Magic. I had a friend visiting for 5 or 6 days. But he's like a casual player, and he plays a lot of Arena. And he was like, oh, do you want to do a draft? And we were just sitting on the porch having a beer and drafting. It was pretty fun. Mm-hmm. And I was explaining to him, like, no, take, the third Twilight Panther, take the third Noxious Gideon. He's like, really? That's so many. I'm like, yeah, like the only thing we can lose to, because we had 4, I think it was 4 or 5 ill-gotten inheritance.
Ooh.
Yeah. And he was like, really? We take another one? I'm like, yeah, dude, we just play it and then rest on our laurels. You know, we don't have to do anything. And then he was like, I don't know. I'm like, yeah, no, trust me. The only way we lose with the black-white deck, and we had a bunch of Imperious Oligarchs. Like our 2-drops were literally just 5 Imperious Oligarchs. Deck was busted.
Jeez.
And we had like triple Grasping Thrall. So our curve was just Twilight Panthers, Imperious, Noxious Gideon, Ill-Gotten. And then we had like a Basilica Bellhaunt and then like 3.
You know what it sounds like happened? It sounds like they updated all the bots to draft M20 and took out the like coding for Ravnica Legions. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it was nuts. But anyway, the point was he was like, well, these creatures don't do anything. I'm like, exactly.
That's all we got to do.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly. Yeah, we just have to sit here because, and I base this on Cam's whole theory about that format that, just, roadblock everything on the ground with black-white and just chip them out and save your removal for flyers.
How many wins you get?
We didn't lose.
All of them.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, no, it's true. And in that format, things like Twilight Panther are very good. But I think in this format,
yeah, and it just takes some playing and experimenting, and as we'll talk about methods to do, to figure out a format. And so that's why, even after only playing a couple games of this limited format, I still, I'm just starting to identify things that I want to try and figure out about it. And I don't really want to make many claims other than...
Yeah. What I found has been helping me actually, specifically with this new format, trying out a bunch of new cards, is actually taking notes after games. Like, I like to play maybe 5-game sets, and I'll take little, I'm not scripting every turn of each game, but I'll take little notes as, was I on the player draw? Did my opponent miss their, second land drop? Did I actually draw this card? Did it matter? Was I already winning when I cast it? Was it, how did these games play out? It's actually, you remember a lot more this way when you're thinking about the set of games you've played. And it's actually helped me evaluate cards so far a lot better, I find, rather than just playing games over and over and not actually intaking any information.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is something that Cam and I's roommate and multiple guests on the show, Peter, has talked about at length, which is if you don't have a spreadsheet, you aren't testing. He would say this all the time to people. They'd be like, oh, you want to come test? He'd be like, you're not testing. You're just playing games. There's a difference. And he would always, he was so strict about it. You know what I mean? He'd be like, look, man, if you're testing, you're taking this seriously, that means, you know what I mean? Making that way more extreme than what you're saying. But I think what you're saying, it doesn't have to be that extreme. I'm just giving an extreme example. I think what you're saying, it can be done really simply too. Just if you talk to a friend about Magic online, I don't just shoot them a message. Hey, I noticed recently, that way you remember and you can talk to about it. And that's what we kind of already do, actually, when you think about it. Yeah. I'm like, I've been trying out this card. It seems pretty strong. You know what I mean? And you write out what happened after each sort of series of matches. Yeah, that's a really smart, smart way to approach it.
It's definitely been helping me a lot. I mean, there's obvious cards that you're just going to know right away that are pretty busted, like Risen Reef and Leyline of Abundance.
Yeah.
But when you really think about it, though, when you're just playing games normally and you're testing, air quotes, how often do you actually write anything down? Or
No, I never do.
Yeah, it'll change your life. Let me tell you.
I do remember things a lot better when I write them down. That's my studying strategies. I just rewrite things I want to memorize.
Like I mentioned, I like to play games maybe emulate a Moto League. So a 5-game set, I'll take little notes and I'll read over it. And then I just remember so much more of what happened, and I actually learn way better this way.
You know what's funny? I played 4 or 5 sets of 5, similar with somebody's deck from the Discord. Mm-hmm. If you want to join the Discord, by the way, sweet community people.
Patreon.com/DWC Podcast.
But I haven't been as active in the last week. I feel guilty about it. I've just been so busy. I assume you guys have been, though, so it's okay. Mm. You're taking care of it for me, I assume.
Yeah, people were mad that we talked about our cat and didn't post pics, so I got some pics in the Discord.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay, right on. Phew. I feel guilty about just not catching up. I've just been, like I said, really busy. But anyway, I played, I think one of the Discord users had asked I run through one of their decks.
Mm-hmm.
And I played a bunch of sets with it. And I remember I sent you guys all these notes and him notes about Angrath and why I thought it was so good in the format, what it was doing, and how to play the matchups. And I learned a lot. I was like, wow, this card's really good. Like, this is what these matchups look. That was when I learned that Dreadhorde Butcher had very good matchups against all the Bant decks that were playing Growth Chamber Guardian because they can just never block. And or if they do, they lose their guy. And so you just get these free attacks with it, and they won't get to level up or, adapt it. But yeah, making those notes taught me a lot, even just how the matchup's supposed to look. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how does it look if both people draw reasonably?
Yeah. What are the common play patterns that happen? You know, I like writing down the looking back over my notes and evaluating at what point in the game was the game won or lost. So it's easy to tell, like, did I win the game because I drew this new card, or did I lose the game because I made this misplay on turn 3 earlier? Maybe the game went 15 turns, but the play on turn 3 snowballed and I could never catch up.
Oh, I've been there. Oh, brother. Lord, brother, I've been there.
Yeah, and those are little things that you might miss if you're not actively thinking about your plays and maybe taking little notes every time you do something that might be questionable. Or if there's a really critical point in the game, just like screenshot it and then get feedback on that. This is what I did. Take notes. What if I had done this? How would have it played out, etc.?
That is why I was thinking even about streaming more, because I found myself playing recently and I would be like, I shouldn't have done this. I should have altered my play a little. And if I'd been streaming, I could have talked out loud about it. But I'm not just going to sit and talk to myself at home. But making notes is also like a good strategy for that.
So making notes is good when you're testing things out. But as you said, you mentioned that there's a lot of cards that it's obvious that they'll be good. I think there are too many cards that people say it's obvious they'll be bad, that look really sort of niche or corner case or like too narrow, or just, even as Adam was saying, like streamers will just not take cards because, oh, this is bad, and not think about scenarios where it could be good. And so another thing when evaluating new cards is to like actually put them into games and evaluate them in matches where they're functioning. Because I found so an example is in my not 03 pre-release, and the other one where I went 3-1, I included a Portal of Sanctuary. This is a 3-mana blue artifact. Only on your turn, you can pay 1 and pick up one of your creatures and all your auras attached to it, which seems like something you wouldn't really want to do. It just seems like it doesn't even really get around removal because you can only do it on your turn. Seems pretty narrow. But I had a few ETB effects and some other things that I thought it might be all right with. I didn't have any auras, but I was just curious, like, do I have enough ETB to make this work? Is it too costly to be recasting my creatures, etc.? And so even though I expected it to be bad, I included it to try. Now, I felt fine doing this because it was a pre-release. There's just packs on the line. But if you're maybe doing a draft among friends or whatever, include a card that you normally wouldn't, just to see what happens. If it's trash, then you're smart because you thought it was trash. And if it's not, then you learned something. And Portal of Sanctuary, it actually ended up being pretty good. I had some Dungeon Geists, which is a busted card, but being able to flexibly switch what Dungeon Geist is tapping was very good.
And like scenarios like that, you might not think of if you just immediately dismiss the card.
Yeah,
actually putting it in your deck, you're gonna find these new little areas that the card's good that you may not have thought.
Yeah, like I just thought of, because I had Cloud Conceers and I just wanted to keep drawing cards, so I thought, maybe this is enough. But yeah, I found that while that was also fine, like doing that was good. Switching Dungeon Geist targets was good, but I also found that because I had a lot of flyers, games typically got into a race. Generally, the game would get to a point where they resolve some flyer, like they play their own angel, 3/2 angel or something. And I can't quite race past that if I'm trading and they're attacking back on the ground. But being able to attack in the air and pick up what they block and replay it so I'm not losing creatures in combat means that I can win the race. And it was a use that I didn't think of. But because it came up in a game, I noticed. So that too, just try more cards. Be more willing to experiment. And this is something, Adam, you were mentioning during our pre-show, that friend of the show, Phil Sams, does a lot.
Oh, yeah. Canadian icon. Yeah, he would often, I remember when I first started playing, sort of competitively, I guess, at the hashtag at the tower. Mm-hmm. But I would go there on these Saturday. I'd play PTQs there and everything, right? Or remember when they had GPTs, like GP trials?
Oh yeah, those are long gone, but
yeah, those were awesome because people took them. They were fun.
Yeah.
And anyway, I'd go play, and sometimes even then, but definitely every single F&M, which the Tower Prize payout was very high end, like top heavy back then, like first and second, and then everyone just got like nothing about. So it attracted. There used to be these like 70 people F&Ms, or people just only playing tier 1 decks, like trying to win. Which now it's still like that, but not as extreme. Like people will come up with brews, but back then it was like only people just playing to win. And even then, Phil would show up to some of these like GPTs, Saturday, Friday tournaments with cards he'd never played because he just wanted to try them in a competitive meta, in a competitive matchup and a setting, because he wanted serious practice out of them. And people would always ask him, oh, well, that's a weird choice. What do you think of that card? I don't know. I'm just trying it. And they couldn't wrap their heads around that he didn't just sort of take the expected normal cards and play them, which is whatever. And he just wanted to see if a card was good or not and find out for himself. And I think that's a really important, like you can lose your F&Ms, you know what I mean? To play cards you want to test out. Like, because it's more important, I think, to play against people who are trying to beat you. Like I played at every GPT. I'd play weird brews all the time at GPTs to test and see how they were. And I think that's really important. Yeah. At, like a 5-0 league on Moto is like a perfect place for that, competitive. Okay, I'll try this out. But you probably have to play several to make it worth it before you want to take it into the mocks. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think it's important to take some L's, like to realize that you're going to lose some events because of this, but the payoff is probably worth it.
I also think this is sort of a tangent, but I think it also fosters like a better mindset just about competitive play and Magic in general. There's some people who get really hung up on like, I did all this testing and preparation, and I think my deck is the best for this tournament, and then, I get unlucky and I lose or whatever, and they get really sort of downtrodden when events don't go well. But if you are going to these events thinking of them as sort of competitive testing grounds where you're going to have fun seeing if something works, that's your mindset shifts slightly.
Yeah, I think it's a lot healthier.
You end up having more fun, probably.
Yeah, you're not going to tilt off the moon on people.
Because even when I'm playing like tier 1 decks, that's generally how I approach things, is like just seeing how things play out. Like,
yeah.
Man, look at that. Old man Sam's just passing on the knowledge to us youngins.
Yeah, that guy is
Phil
ancient.
Sam's just more old and wise than all of us.
Yeah. Follow him on Twitter at your boy P Sam's. I'm pretty sure.
A true Canadian icon.
Hey, that guy kills me. So funny. I think that about wraps it up for just sort of this mentality of going into cards. This is more so not just like an actual act of testing, but more so a mentality of shifting your focus and perspective on how you approach cards in new formats. And I think that can really help people think about them. So that, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, now we've got a few sweet decks that we've liked standard so far, and the testing we've got through so far. Cool. I know IRL Green Creatures from the Discord sent me a message today asking if we got any sweet Leyline of Abundance decks. Boy, do we.
I think he messaged me first. He messaged, have you guys been flirting with Leyline of Abundance? Yeah. And I replied, Adam and Stelly already went home with it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, not
that Leyline stayed over all weekend long. Let me tell you.
Yeah, it's been wild. I think I'm in love. Yeah, I texted my mom even.
You got to meet this card.
Yeah, I met someone.
We'll post a couple lists we've been trying out with this episode. You can find it on our Twitter page at DWC Podcast 1 or on our Facebook page, the Disorganized Wizards Club Podcast. But I started off this format with a Bant Ramp deck that, pretty close to last format's Bant Ramp with the full 12 mana dorks, originally starting with Incubation Druid. I also added the 4 Leyline, added Cavalier of Thorns, playing a Finale of Glory as a one-off, got Hydroid Krasis, threw Risen Reef in there. Nissa, who shakes the world, to Fairy Time Raveler. But where I'd like to take the deck now is go a little bit harder on the elemental synergies with Risen Reef, because that card is just, like we mentioned last week, so unbelievably busted. So I think the next step is to swap out Incubation Druid, where I started, and put in Leafkin Druid for the little bit more of elemental synergy, plus Cavalier of Thorns has to be more of those boys in the deck. Man, that card's so good.
Yeah, that card's nuts. Yeah, I've played a lot of Leyline too. I played mostly the blue-green versions. And also I've been trying to build, but still not sure how, elves, just tribal elves with Leyline, because you just play 20
Icon of Ancestry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just play 20 mana dorks and then ley lines. So turns out, but the problem is if you don't have ley line, it's not a good look. But I'm just deciding the color pairing. That's been the hardest part, because do I want to be Jund, which I think you kind of do, but then at the same time, I want green and blue together because I want to be able to play Tamio in case I need to get cards back after I get Wrath.
Yeah.
Or, is Fine Broker good enough because it's an elf? Like there's so many, you know what I mean? But you can actually, as a thought experiment, I sort of went all in on playing like, I think there are 28 elves that tap for mana.
That's a lot.
So it's something, but that's counting like Marwyn
Okay.
and other things that situationally sort of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, you can kind of go nuts, right? So, and just seeing if you can just pump, like overrun them with Leyline.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can. But the problem is it lacks the card draw that the Bant and other ones that you were talking about that we're going to post have. But I'll post like some thought experiment ones that I was playing so people can sort of see if they can build upon it, which I think is also like another part of what we were talking about in the topic, right? Which is that sometimes I might be close in deck building as a thought experiment, but I'm just missing a few pieces. And I think that's kind of where we're at right now, right?
Yeah.
When we're getting ready for posting a bunch of decks that we like, is that I think that's where everyone is, right? You're close, you just don't know what pieces you're missing.
But yeah, the next iteration of ramp I moved to was just straight blue-green.
Yeah, and this is what I've been playing.
Yeah, little more streamlined with the Leafkin Druids, Risen Reefs, Leyline, Tamio. And then I heard a lot of talk about how good Flood of Tears was. And that was a card I initially skipped over during spoilers. And I've been playing the 4 Flood of Tears with the 1 Omniscience package just as a little gotcha. And I thought it would be too cute, just a bit of a win more thing to go for, but it's actually insane. It's been a lot better than I originally thought.
Yeah, it's actually very good.
Yeah.
I think we discussed this, right? Unless you get Wrathed.
Yeah, unless you come on.
You just gotta,
Yeah.
I mean,
You take your licks where.
yeah, exactly. Well, you have Cavalier Thorns to rebuild.
Yeah.
That card,
exactly. That card's still nuts.
But I mean, these decks sort of answer the question, though, right? Of have you guys been playing with Leyline? Yeah.
Yes, we have.
That card, it's just so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many ways you can take it.
What's the best turn 3 you've had?
So I don't know if it's okay. It's the best only because I kept a 1-lander that had double Leyline, Llanowar Elf, double Leafkin Druid, Krasis, and Forest.
Nice.
Or Breeding Pool. Yeah, Breeding Pool.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I was able to put the double Leylines, play the Elf, then go Leafkin or whatever. And then the next turn, Hydra Krasis for 8 on 1 land. So on turn 3, I got to play an 8/8 Hydra Krasis off 1 mana in play, off having a terrain in play, which felt like cheating. And then I drew 4 cards, one of which was a land, played another mana dork. And then I think the next turn I cast a Krasis for 18. Or no, I cast a Nissa. Then I drew 8 off of Finale of Revelation. This was on turn 4 after casting a Nissa because all my lands now tap for 1,000,000.
Yeah.
And then the next turn I played an 18/18 Krasis and my opponent conceded. So that was off keeping a 1-lander.
Right on. That's pretty good.
Mana mechanics.
I put an Omniscience into play on turn 3, and I thought that was cool.
Wait, what? How?
Yeah. Well, you go Leyline. I went Llanowar Elves, and
Yeah.
then double Mana Dork on turn 2. And turn 3, I Flood of Tears, picked up my Leyline and 4
Yeah.
dudes, put Omniscience into play. I was like, this is nuts.
That is okay. Yeah, that's better than mine. I just thought mine was cool because I kept a 1-lander.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I only kept it because I was on the play. I was like, well, he has to have shock or this game's over on the spot. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't. So he just like was playing a fair deck. He went like turn 2 Wild Growth Walker, turn 3 Wild Growth Walker, turn 4 Jadelight Ranger, then conceded because like I've had an 18/18 Crisis.
I mean, it is kind of refreshing that green decks don't have to play the Explore package.
Yeah,
There's something more degenerate.
yeah, a big fan of that actually. That you just don't have to auto play the Explore package. So that's nice to see. The version you're playing is a little different. So I'm trying. Well, I've tried different versions, but I've also played the versions that have just still playing Mass Manipulation as a way to beat the mirror.
We'll post my version and we'll post your version.
So yeah,
so people can compare.
I moved to Mass Manipulation again to beat the mirror. Because if you take their dorks and stuff, they can't do anything. Like their deck does, you know what I mean? It only takes one mass manipulation or entrancing melody to sort of brick them. Because if you, let's say you entrancing first, take a dork, now they're a turn behind, and you're accelerated, and if you have a ley line, and then you untap and mass manipulation 2 things, the game's over because you just have too much, and they need a critical mass. Like both decks need a critical mass, and so mass manipulation affects that critical mass. So, but no, the decks, all the decks I've been playing around with, basically, if they have mana dorks, have Leyline, because Leyline, it's just a
one-stop shop.
Yeah, exactly. Is both your combo enabler, so to speak, but also your win condition. The problem with the Leyline decks, I was complaining to Cam about it. I was like, this is stupid, is that your ramp and your win condition are the same card.
Yeah.
It's Leyline and dorks, and then, or Crisis, which is your card draw. And so normally ramp, its win condition isn't also its card draw. In this case, it is. Normally, its ramp isn't also a potential win condition. In this case, it is. So that's very, very threatening that makes it so consistent. And I wanted mulls to 4 because you only need certain pieces to just go nuts.
Mm-hmm.
So very interesting. This is a more fair brew that you're dealing with here now.
Another deck I was playing without ley lines, though, was Teamer Elementals. Just fully going all in on Risen Reef. And I found a couple lists I liked. I originally was just straight elementals, Omnath, Risen Reef, Leafkin Druid, Cavalier, playing Hydroid Crisis as well with Nissa. And then I recently threw in the Flood of Tears package just to see it was good. Can't confirm it's good. But I've seen versions of the deck playing more, like less Nissas with the Flood of Tears combo, which I don't really like because your best turns with Flood of Tears are when you have a Nissa, I find, because you just leave your 3/3s in play and just completely everything gets picked up, and then you get to just replay your Nissa and make another 3/3.
That does sound strong.
Yeah, because the lands don't go to your hand. Lands, right? So
Nissa just doing it again.
Yeah,
so whenever I see these lists where people aren't playing for Nissa, I just don't understand.
Yeah, I don't get it either.
But
it's still been one of the best cards. Wait, you've been playing a black-red deck as well, right?
Yeah, it's similar to, actually, I didn't even know that the guy who got #1 Mythic with black-red aggro, I was playing, it's literally a 3-card difference because he's playing 3 God Eternal Bontu, and I didn't play that card because, I don't know, I just didn't think to. It's probably nuts.
Yeah, this is a deck I haven't played at all, but I lost to a version of it, and it looked really good.
Yeah, I've been just running people over with it, and it's just, Knight of the Aben Legion, Rix Matty Reveler, Dreadhorde Butcher, Judith, Legion Warboss, Midnight, Reaper, Rekindling Phoenix, Bontu, and then, Shock and Lightning Strike. Mm-hmm. The difference is I'm playing the 4th Midnight Reaper over this, and a 4th Judith, and I think a Bedevil is the other card that I have. And otherwise, 3 cards off. This deck's really good. Knight of the Ebon Legion is very good. I've gotten a lot of people playing, they don't have Llanowar Elf and they just have a 2-drop. And I get to go, Knight, shock your 2-drop, attack you. Turn 3, they play something. I attack with Knight. If they don't have anything, I just get a huge Knight. And then start just snowballing from there, playing the 8 red removal spells just to clear out dorks early. Makes so much space for the rest of your team. It just buys you enough time that they can't really come back. Because a blue-green ramp deck, if its dork gets killed, if its dorks die, it's kind of useless. And Legion Warboss will just run them over, actually.
Yeah,
that's one way to exploit green leyline. If their dorks aren't sticking around, then they've actually they're down cards.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Which is why I'm a big fan of Paradise Druid over Incubation Druid. Because you just have to have the Hexproof on that.
Yeah.
You just have to have the 2-1. Also, Incubation Druid just not attacks for 0 and gets bounced by Teferi and can't kill a Teferi after it bounces, let's say, something else. It's just unacceptable to me. I think Incubation Druid is unplayable in Standard, which I know sounds like an extreme argument, but I just don't think the risk is worth it. If you get Teferi bounced, you just lose on the spot.
Yeah, I'm more inclined to agree with you now. Leafkin Druid has been replacing it, and it's an 0-3, but it plays much better with Risen Reef, and for that reason alone, you're in the deck. Sorry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
Leafkin Druid's also increased mana production is turned on sooner and more easily than incubation druids.
By just playing more dorks. And Risen Reef, it just happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the chance that it synergizes with Risen Reef is worth it. But yeah, that's why I think decks like this and Teferi decks in general sort of make Incubation Druid unplayable. Because with a Paradise Druid, I'm just going to block a Dreadhorde Butcher every chance I get. I have to. You know what I mean? If you're on the draw, even, it lets you block it and still trade and just take 2, which is super important. Whereas the other stuff doesn't do that. So, it can be really important. But yeah, this red-black deck is very good. It's very, very similar to what I've been playing. So, cool to see. Also, the red-black sideboard is very good for a lot of the matchups. You have access to Noxious Grasp and Fry, which basically just set you up for any problems.
Yeah, those hate cards, specifically those two, have been really good. Aether Gust as well has been a really high-performing hate card for me.
Oh, the whole cycle of hate cards. Yeah, been very good. Also, just for Lava Coil. Lava Coil out of the sideboard right now can just be insane in some matchups. It just auto-wins some matchups. So yeah, the red-black deck's very, very, very good.
Yeah. But yeah, I've been having fun with Standard so far.
I actually am enjoying it because there has been a downtick in the kind of cards I hated from the last season, like Command the Dreadhorde.
Yeah.
Which I played Command the Dreadhorde decks. Just miserable.
That's what I heard some people saying, is that in this flood of brews, there's been less Narset, less Teferi, less Command the Dreadhorde. Still a bunch of Nissa.
I'm just wondering how long it's going to take for people to come back around and be like, hey, why did I stop playing Esther?
Yeah, wait, I can just beat everybody. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think there is a legitimate reason to not play it other than brewing, in that we've seen there were sort of multiple versions of Esper as it shifted between hero and super friends and superheroes, etc. And because it's the mid-range deck of the format, it needs everyone else to settle down so it can tool its answers, and then it'll stomp them.
All right. Thank you all for joining the club this week. Make sure, as always, you check out wizardtower.com, your source for Magic singles here in Canada. If you want to support the show, you can find us on Patreon, patreon.com/DWC Podcast. And however you listen to the show, whether it's on Podbean, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, leave a review, share the podcast with your friends. Everything helps keep this thing growing and bring it to new listeners. And we'll catch you all next week.
Later.
See ya.